Hey, Ag Teacher Thoughts here, coming at you with another video. I know I'm going to catch internet scorn or compliments or hate mail or whatever it is for my chosen footwear in my last video. Now, let me show you what my chosen footwear is. Yep, it's my hobbit-like feet. That's what it is. This video is going to be about that. It's about that. Um, Barefoot gardening. So, why? Let's grab some plants. We'll go up and we'll start planting them, and I'll kind of talk to you about why I've got barefoot gardening on the mind and why that's really kind of what I do. Um, really every summer once the weather kind of warms up and it's no longer freezing outside. So let's grab some of our cold out firefly petunias. I got some spots to put them. We'll set them up, and then we'll start talking about what is going on with that. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got our firefly petunia hybrids, and we're going to go ahead and put a bunch of those in the ground here. These are ones that I'm not selecting for our breeding program, so they're just going to go straight in the ground. Those roots are actually fairly nice in some of these. And we'll talk a little bit about why I barefoot garden. As you can see, barefoot in the dirt. So a number of years ago, there was a study that came out, and there was a mycobacterium, Mycobacterium vaccae, I think is how it is pronounced. It's VACCAE. And that study came out and said that this bacterium, when your skin gets in contact with that bacterium, it helps stimulate the levels of serotonin in your body. And so serotonin's your body's way it really works with and regulates sleep. It's really important for you to have good serotonin levels so that you can be healthy, because your sleep is what makes you heal. When I first moved to this area, before when I lived in another town, I did do some outdoor barefoot gardening, but not to the extent that I have here at our new home. When we first moved here, we did a lot of work in the yard as far as removing things that had spines or thorns to them. We patrolled the property and made sure that there was no punctured vine. Those of you that don't know, puncture vine, otherwise known as goat heads, is a weed that forms kind of like a carpet-like mass, and it's got really sharp seed pods, and they embed themselves in your foot. So I make sure that I don't have any of those in our property. I've kind of scanned the whole property for them. When we see them, we remove them. Looks like a potato, which is funny because we're in Idaho. Put that right there. But anyway, I've made sure that I don't have thistles, I don't have puncture vine. I've removed all of that stuff from our yard. So when I do that, it allows me to go ahead and garden barefoot. So this is kind of something that's kind of evolved as I've been here in North Idaho. And both my wife and I barefoot garden. Now, going back to the serotonin levels, and yes, we got lots of rocks here. That's why I'm not using a shovel. But I'm someone that does suffer from a sleep disorder. I have fibromyalgia, and for me, I barefoot garden a lot just for my health. Anything that can help boost my serotonin or anything that can help me sleep better and heal quicker is something that I'm going to do. So I come out and I love to plant plants in the garden, which gets the mycobacteria on your hands. Your skin absorbs it, promotes that production of serotonin. So I'm all for it. And I've really kind of set my yard up, like I was saying, making sure there's not a lot of thorns here. With the yard where we're at, there's not a lot of bees. I mean, we've got cutter bees, but I don't really often see honeybees here. And so I'm not as worried about stepping on a honeybee. You'll also see if you watch me walk around, I look down when I walk to make sure I'm not stepping on bees. That's really about my only risk that I would worry about is stepping on a bee. So as long as you look down, it's not really a thing that you have to worry about as much. But I'm all about getting the mycobacteria in my skin, and getting them through your feet is a great way. So, get those little feet out there. And some of you may notice my feet are pretty white. I am someone that does tan fairly well, and this is still early on in my barefoot season, but they'll get darker as the year goes on. But I do garden outside barefoot a lot, and if you can and you've got the area, I'd recommend it. Why not? Why not be out there barefoot gardening? If you've got the space and you've got the soil, go ahead and do it. Now I'll kind of take you on a walk around. So our grass is kind of fairly sparse here. It really struggles in North Idaho. We've been working a lot on it. This soil here is mainly sand, so we kind of struggle. We're removing the clover because it's choking out the grass, which is unfortunate, but also, I don't really want it there because I do like the barefoot part of the gardening. We also have a little bit of a slope here, and I've actually fallen more on this slope wearing shoes than I have just being barefoot. So like flip-flops, I don't bother wearing those because this slope, which is a pretty good slope, kind of prevents me from doing that. So yeah, barefoot gardening. In here, that's a sow thistle, that is prickly lettuce, but all the other thistles we've really worked at getting out of here, ones that would actually really kind of hurt or harm your feet. It doesn't mean that there aren't any. That's a Scottish thistle I've got to get out of here. That's in our alleyway behind our home, so that's going to go away. Although it really does speak to my Scottish heritage, having a Scottish thistle there. So yeah, when I touch it, I hear bagpipes. The other thing about this area is there are so many rocks when I'm digging in this soil that I don't tend to use shovels anyway. So I'm not having to push down on a shovel with bare feet, which is, a good reason to wear shoes, is using various garden tools. I simply use a three-pronged tool. Now this is a tool that came from Japan. It's forged in Japan, at least that's what the sticker said on it when I bought it. And I use it because it allows me to get in here and remove rocks and move soil around and be able to get in amongst those rocks. If you put a shovel down and you hit a rock with the tip of that shovel, it's not going any further. But using this planting tool, I can get in there, I can move the soil, I can prep it, I can really work with the soil and around these rocks. And again, they're everywhere. We're in a slack water area for the two major floods that came through in Idaho. So we had one that came from an ice wall down around Twin Falls, so way down in southern Idaho, and then the Great Missoula flood. We're kind of where those two floods work back and forth. So we are on a slack water where that kind of all settled down, actually up on the hill. I think I'm 150 feet above the river or something like that. But anyway, there's a lot of gravel, a lot of rock. So I spent a lot of my time picking that out, which is the other reason why I work with my hands without gloves and go barefoot. So, like I said, lots of rocks. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and clear a few more of those. So yeah, serotonin level. I always do feel better. You didn't have to tell me that there's a bacteria that makes you feel better when you garden. I just feel better when I garden anyway. I really enjoy it. So that's my tool. It really works down around the rocks. I can come in and just pick the rocks out. It's easier to feel a rock with bare fingers than with hands. With gloves. I have bulbs down here too. I also tend to damage less bulbs when I do it that way. There's tulips in here. I've worked a lot to try to improve this soil. Something else planted. A bunch of peat moss. All right. A few more of those things out of the way. Plant a few more of these. And yeah, every time I put a pot on the ground, the soil is better for the next season because I'm putting a lot of that organic matter in there. This soil is very, very sandy and doesn't trap a lot of nutrients in it. Oh, good, he's dead. It doesn't trap a lot of nutrients in it, so it makes it very hard to keep your nitrogen up in the soil. So being able to add organic matter to it is going to help hold more moisture, which in turn is going to hold in, it's going to have locations where we can get that nitrogen really stored in there. So every pot that I put in, every annual is helping for the next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. It's really just kind of improving everything as we go along. This is a really, really sandy soil. And if I dig down far enough where I'm at, I start getting into softball and baseball size rocks, which is back that way a little bit more is where one of the mounds of rocks comes up a little bit higher. So back where my apricot tree is planted, actually. I'm just kind of doing mass plantings today. Gotta get the soil up off my border bricks. Move it in there. Now those are from my tulips, so I know I got some tulips there. I think I've got some in through here too, so we're going to try to avoid that. Maybe we'll try a couple. So anyway, I hope you kind of enjoyed seeing a little bit of planting done and learning that it's okay to go out in the garden barefoot. Enjoy that soil between your toes. If you ever wondered why you're probably so happy as a kid, it's because you made mud pies and you played in the dirt and the soil, and that mycobacteria really helped you out. normalize barefoot gardening again. It's a thing. It's good for you. Anyway, in a weird way, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Ag Teacher Thoughts out.